Hi everyone, this is Brant again, your CT310 TA, and today we're going to be going over your Project 2, which should be this recitation from Recitation 5, but I'm just going to go over some of these requirements and how you want to approach this assignment, because I think there's been a lot of confusion on how to structure your directories and what you're supposed to be doing. So essentially, let me get into the lab first. I'm not on the VPN today, so I'm just going to use public HTML. And so let's say I was in my local HTML right now, and ignore this example homepage thing. Try and ignore that. Basically, what you would want is your homepage that you made for assignment 1 and the styling sheet that goes with it. And then you'll make a directory east, make a directory west. So you can see, I didn't like that. There we go. So now you can see I've got my east directory, my west directory, my index stuff. And then within your east and west, you'll make a east.php and east.css. I'll fix that in a second. And within your west, you'll make a west.php and a west.css. So now if I list everything in my east directory, ignore the fact that there's a typo here, but I have my east.php and CSS, and same thing with my west. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into east and rename this real quick. Okay, so that's kind of how it should be structured, right? So I've got my main homepage and my 2 subpages. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the permissions for all of this right away, so I don't forget. And I'm going to open this in my editor over CyberDuck. I've been having issues lately with CyberDuck for some reason, so we might encounter that in this video, but I hope not. I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a template, some boilerplate stuff. We're going to go over how you can link all these pages together on your nav bar so that you can navigate between them. And then, it should be head, not header. And we'll try and hit some of these requirements. I'm kind of doing this on the fly a little bit, so it might not be perfect, but I hope that it is enough for you all to get started on your projects. Okay? Add a meta tag. Since this is just an example, we don't need to do a lot. Here I'm just adding a title. And then within my body, I'm going to want my nav element. Alright. And I'm going to have a main element. And then I'm going to have a footer. I don't know if a footer is required. Let's check the assignment page. It says up here, the 3 will have a header, footer, and a nav tag in common, so I'm going to put a footer in here as well. Okay, and I notice I haven't done any CSS styling yet. That's because, to be honest, off the top of my head, it might take me a second to do all the styling properly. I'm just trying to give you guys a rough outline. So if you want to link in all your pages together, right? Right now I'm creating a nav bar, as you can see. So I have my nav element, which defines my nav bar. And then inside of it, I'm putting an unordered list, and this is just going to be a list of links. And then later on, we're going to style it so that it makes it in more of a nav bar. So then what I want to do is I'll have a link to home, which is the current page. So if you want to link to yourself, you just do a £, and then that way when they click on that link, it doesn't reload the page. It knows that you're already here, and that way it doesn't get reloaded. Then I want to link to my east page, so I'm going to go east dot slash east/east.php, and then /west/west.php. And then in here I'll say go to east. right? Go to west. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually open up one of these pages. We've been writing some stuff. No, I'm on my public HTML. So what you're going to see when I open this is that I didn't have to do the 4444 because I'm on public. And we have no content, so that is not great. Whenever that happens, the first thing I do is go and inspect, check my sources, and it looks like, oh yeah, it's a CyberDuck issue again. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. If you're confused on what's happening, I am sorry. It is CyberDuck has been nuts with me all day, and I cannot figure out why. Okay, so now let's see if that fixed it. There we go. Now these are not styled as links for some reason. That's because I didn't put these inside the tags. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And let's see if I can get a 2-for-1 right here. This is kind of a Visual Studio Code trick where you can sometimes do 2-for-1, and it's kind of nice. Okay, so that's this page. If we were going to east, there is no east page, so it's empty. There's no west page. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and copy this nav element, put it in my east page. Actually, I'm going to copy this whole boilerplate because really the CSS is the only thing that's going to be different between this west and east page. The HTML should be exactly the same. Now, here's the thing. So we need to do the paths relative, and so we're now down into this. Like if we're on this east page, we're in the east directory when someone's come here. So now if we want to go back to the home page, the index page, we have to do ... to go up a directory, and then we'll do /index.php. And then same goes for, we're in the east page, so we'll do ... up. So we go up out of this east directory into here, and then into west, and then we get the PHP. And then since this is east, we are just going to put a # here to link to ourselves. And then since this is west, we're going to do that. Do a # here. And then we'll do ... / to go to east because we got to go up a directory. Same thing with index, ... / index.php. Alright, so now let's go ahead and put something up here that says this way we don't get confused and we're navigating. Because I feel like it's going to be easy to get confused. Just for the sake of example, for the most part, we want to do this. Obviously, you're not going to do this in your actual page. But now, let's go ahead and reload. You're on index. Okay, so if we go to east. Oh, gosh dang it. See, this is another CyberDuck issue, and it's frustrating me. So it's not uploading properly. That's why I'm doing this. So now, open that, see how it didn't upload. Now it uploads properly. Copy this. It must have to do with the fact that I opened the whole directory at once. Okay, so you're on east, go to west. You're on west, go back to east. You're on east, go home. That works. Go to west, go home. That works. Okay, so now you can see what's going on, right? So if I'm on index and I click east, I'm going to go ... east to east.php. And now I'm on east. So if I want to go to west, I have to go ... so up a directory, right? Because I want this, because essentially I want this to be west and west, right? So if I click that, you'll see that's how it works. Okay, so now you're able to navigate between your pages, which is a big thing. And this is how you should structure it. Please ignore this example homepage directory. This is from the lab today. And in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that so it is not bothering us. So this is how it should kind of be structured. And then remember that this HTML should pretty much be the same throughout all of your things. So I'm going to go ahead and just like steal some Wikipedia. I have no idea how this is going to look. I'm going to go ahead and distribute from the HTML Wikipedia page as such, and we'll put a reference link in there as well. And that way we're attributing at least the source. All the Wikipedia articles are available under the GNU license, which means we can copy and use them how we want to, as long as we don't try and make money off of them and such. So let's go back. Okay, so I think I was editing the east. Yeah. So here we go. Here's a bunch of text. You can see it didn't it doesn't look great, but we have some HTML code. So you can see that's how it's structured. So then can I get rid of some of these spaces? I just want to get rid of, because this is a lot of text, right? But then these should all have the same main content as well. So we'll do that in there. We'll do that in there. And then my footer, I'll just put something in here like made for CSU class project. We'll put that in all our pages. Well, you can see that this is tedious, that we have to repeat the same thing in all these pages. And this is part of the reason that we'll be using PHP later in the semester, and that's why we have these .php, so that we don't have to keep rewriting all the same code, right? Because these pages are all essentially the same, right? Except for like a few small changes. Now I'm going to change this title to the east page, so that we're there, we know we're on east. I'm going to change this title to the west page, so that we know we're on west. Okay, so let's reload. So now our home looks like, they should all pretty much look the same now. The only thing that's changing up here is whether you're on index east or west. So all this HTML is the same, is the point I'm trying to make. And now we can start styling it. So which one has to have the nav bar on the top? Let's see if we can even get a rough nav bar. So in east, we have to have a nav bar across the top. So let's try and play with east. Now I'm going to go ahead and just do this right now because CyberDuck's been being weird. Open it through that. Okay, that's west. My bad. So we're going to go through east, and let's just try and style the nav. I'm just going to give you a little bit of styling because I know that you all know how to do this. It's more so that you can see what's going on, and then you can go ahead and start playing around for your assignment. So take the nav, list items. We'll go ahead and see if we can do display inline block. And we'll also do text I think it's list decoration? List style, none. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, let's see what happens. So we want to go to east. Well, nothing happened. So let's do an inspect. Let's make sure, oh, you know what happened? I didn't link my style sheet in. That was silly of me. Okay, so in east, right? This is the only difference that is going to be in any of the HTML. Is this will link to this one's going to link to east.css, right? I'll use double quotes, right? And then for west, this will be west.css, right? And then for index, this will be index.css. So that way when we're editing our CSS files, right, it should just be the one that corresponds to that respective PHP page. Let's see if it works now. There we go. So now at least they're displaying in line. We'll select all these link tags and say text decoration, none, color. And so one of the things you all should notice is that in this assignment you're required to use these color schemes. So these are the colors you should be using in your pages. So let's go ahead and use this color for our links on our nav bar. So now that's our links. Okay. And then we'll add a hover color as well, so that when we hover over them, we know that we're going to select them. Hover property, and we'll make this something that's contrasts. So we used that. We'll use, we have to think about this here. So I'm going to use, honestly, I'm going to switch this up. So I'm going to use this darker color for this one, and then I'm going to use the slightly lighter one for hover. So you can see they get slightly lighter because I want to use one of the oranges as the background. And then we'll add some padding, 14 pixels, 16 pixels, so 14 left and right, 16 up and down. And then, so we see here's our nav, and there's some pixels surrounding it. So let's go ahead and say nav ul background color, and let's select another color from here. I think it's probably would be smarter for us to add some margin or something to the this nav element itself, but we'll see how this works first. Okay. So instead, let's see what happens when we do this. The same. So we want to make the height of this like 32. I'm kind of playing around right now because I don't know off the top of my head what the best way to do this is. Oh, that's the left and right padding. Okay, up and down, left and right. So we've got left and right padding. Here is our nav element. We want to somehow vertically align these. Anyways, you kind of get the point. Basically, we're styling the header, and then we'll make some main content. Now, this is the east page, so just for the sake of showing you how to center content that's wider than necessary. So let's say we have our main content in here, right? Sorry, that's west. Main content in here. I'll take my main, and let's just add a background color to it. I think I want to do a dark background with light text, so let's use this. And then we'll use our text color to be this orange, I guess. I don't know, this is kind of a weird color scheme, but it's more of you so that you can get practice playing around with color schemes. Okay, wow. And now what I'll do is margin left auto, and then we'll do margin right auto. And what that does is it centers the content on the page. So you can see, I mean, it might be hard to see with this because it's so wide. So let's go ahead and create a fixed width for this content. So let's make it 800 pixels wide. So now, if we're on this page, you can see, okay, there it is. It's centered. Obviously, these colors don't look that great, and the fonts don't look that great, but try and ignore that for now. Okay, so when we widen the page, you can see the margins get fatter, and when we shrink the page, you can see they get skinnier, but no matter what, this content stays in the center, which is what we're trying to do. So that's why you want to use the margin left and right auto. So that's just a good way of showing you how to do that. And then real quick, let's say I'm just going to do some quick CSS on the west side so you can see how the HTML is the same, but the CSS is different. So now let's say we were styling west. What you want to do is, let's style this nav differently. So nav, make the width 20%, height 100%, position is fixed. So we did this in Recitation 3, I believe. Top 0, left 0. And now let's go to the west page. So we're on east. Okay, here it is. It's kind of jank, right? So then let's take, I'm going to go ahead and move this inside of the main. You can see it's still kind of the same. So now what we'll do is we'll take our main content, margin left at 25%, and see if that moves it over. Okay, sweet. And then background color. So we're on west now, so you want to use the west color scheme, right? So let's make our nav background this black color. We'll make the color of our text, any text in there, this gray color. This is just a quick example. You probably want to style it slightly differently. So let's say we have our nav list items. List style will be none. Display block, and then we'll do nav list item anchor tags, text decoration none. Color, we'll just copy this. You can see I'm going really quick because I want to demonstrate to you how these things are different without changing the HTML, but I'm not actually going to go on how to do every specific detail. Add some padding on the top. And then, of course, we'll add a hover attribute to it. And again, grabbing another color from our scheme. Let's use, man, these are all such dark colors, so it's going to be hard. What we'll do is we'll use like that. Let's see how that is. You can see how I'm just copying and pasting the colors from the page so that I can use that color scheme. Okay, so now if I go over them, you see how the color changes. I wonder why that padding didn't have any effect. Maybe it's because I got to put them on here. There we go. Some padding. Inspect. If you really want to mess around with it, you could see how it's if we do this, set this margin left to 0 so that this, you see this green on the edge, get rid of that. Now it's going to shift it over, right? I believe. Maybe not. Oh, padding left, it's not margin left. Shifts it over, and then we'll just add that padding back in down here. It was 40, I believe, so shift it back a little bit. 40 is too much, let's do like 20. The reason I'm doing this is, so now, see how when I highlight them, this is all green? Now, if I want to, I can do on hover, I'll change these to background color, and then we'll steal this white color again. And there you go. So now, you can see it's kind of cool. Changes colors when I go over them. And then, of course, the other thing we want to do is for our main, make the width of it 90% of the page so that it's always filling up 90%. Now, this kind of sucks because it's like, because this thing takes up 20%, we'll have to go over. So instead of doing that, let's make this width 60%. So you can see here's west. Cool. So I've only used the black and white colors. So maybe I want to use something different for my text, like let's use this teal color, I guess. I don't know. So there we go. Yeah, so you can see that now we have styling. We can go to home. Your home will obviously be your styled home page. Here's a nav bar on the top with some content that stays centered, right? And here's a west page at the nav bar on the side and content that scales to 90% of the page. So even if I make it super small, you can see it just scales to 90% of the available, or I guess in our case, it's 60% of the available width. So that's pretty much all for today. I hope in the future to do a couple of videos on how you can actually do all this editing from home and not have to be in the lab. But for now, I think that should be enough to get you started on this assignment. Make sure that you have the file extensions as .php and not .html. And I should warn you, and I talked about this in lab, that now that they're .php, you're not going to be able to open them in the way that I know a lot of you have been opening them through the file system. So, let's say I was in Finder, right? It'll open up, which I want is reveal in Finder. Well, you know how a lot of you will open it by clicking on it like this. It'll pull up in your web browser, right? If I were to rename this, just for the sake of showing you, east.php, now if I try and open this, I can't open it with the browser, right? It's going to open it with Xcode or something weird, even though all the content is, well, this text edit's not a good example. All the content is exactly the same if I open it in this, right? So in order to open these files, you will have to go through the URL. So if you're in your web browser and you're on campus, you'll do 4444. And then your EID, and this will take you to your local HTML. If you're not on campus, you can always just use the public HTML. Or, like I said, I'm going to do a video on how to use VPNs so that you can use local HTML even when you're not on campus. But that is a topic that's going to take a while to discuss and explain how it works. So for now, I think that should be enough to get you started. Of course, if you have any questions, you can email me. I believe this is due on Monday. So thank you a lot for watching, and I hope this helps you out.